If you want to really power up your subwoofer, or run a powerful front system, but you don't have much space and don't want to use too much power, then there's this ETON Mini 320.2, a small amplifier with a total of 620 watts bridged. It needs power, super efficient, super small. I'm going through the specs and telling you a bit about this amplifier and its sister model, the 4-channel version of it.
For that, let's first head over to the desk. First of all, I bought the amplifier used, bought it on eBay Klein. And you can see, and the cover, it's not original. I just reprinted it. Yeah, it just wasn't there. With the purchase, the adjustment knobs and the screws are not original either. They are usually black. They weren't available in black, so I made them new. Made it new, more discreet now. It looks a bit more discreet. The ETON, the lettering is usually highlighted, but that's not a big deal. It's Mini. 300.2. Class D power amplifier, also known as an amplifier. What do we have there? So we have the amplifier has the terminals, both for power and for speakers, are plug-in. They're really stuck. That means it's not so easy to take them off. Yeah, what do we have there? We have power connections and speaker connections in adapter form. That means we can take them off, connect them, and when it's done, we can put them back on. On the far left, there's an LED that indicates whether the amplifier is on or not. We have positive, remote, and ground. Here at this point we have auto sense, which means normally, for high level, I would set it to DC. If DC doesn't work, that means if the direct current from the radio can't be detected. Then to signal, then it can also turn off. When there's no signal at the moment, that means it's not so safe. And if you go in via remote signal, then just set it to off, because then we don't need auto sense. With remote, the remote signal doesn't come in now, but the level remote control, that one wasn't included. Accordingly, we move on. Next, we have the input for the high level. That means another adapter goes in there, and that's where the high level connections from the radio go in. I need it, but not because I need to use the amplifier via RCA. Enter the amplifier from the DSP directly into the X. And here is the speaker output where the plug fits in. Basically, connect the cable, push it in, and then you have a good connection, just like with the power, ground, and remote. Just clamp it down properly, and then you can't really get it out anymore, and you have a good connection. From the outside, the amplifier looks quite discreet. You can't see much. That's nice aluminum. On bottom we have a serial number. We have the operating voltage, and we have the power. So approximately 2x 185 watts at 4 ohms, 2x 310 ohms at 2 ohms, and like 620 watts at 4 ohms. Bridged, so for a subwoofer it's really only suitable for car audio. Anything else? We see 4 connection options. To attach the foot, that means there are these little metal pieces. You can screw them on there, but you can also screw them on from the bottom. That's how I'm going to do it. So now I'm going to open the cover first, and then we'll see what adjustment options we have in the crossover. Now we have a close look at the adjustment options. We have a filter that we can adjust, a low-pass filter. We have a high-pass filter. We set the amplifier level using the level control. That means we need to set the level according to the DSP to ensure optimal signal transmission. The filters are activated when they are pressed. That means if it looks a bit down, you just have to take a little pin. So now it's active. Now both are activated. Now the low-pass filter and the high-pass filter are active. The low-pass filter is from 30 to 200 Hz, and the high-pass filter is from 50 to 300. So you can basically take away some of the mid-high tones from the subwoofers. You can take away the bass for better sound. I prefer leaving filters off and adjusting on DSP, so that you can achieve a nice addition there. However, I am definitely a fan of leaving all the filters off and really making all the adjustments on the DSP. Because it's just much more comfortable when you're sitting in the front of the car with the microphone, and not having to run back constantly to adjust the knob a bit, but rather control everything directly through the DSP. This way you simply have more options and are flexible. So, I put the little piece back together. You basically put the lid back on. Now the little part is here. I suspect it will be moving into the car soon. I'm going to connect a subwoofer to that. 660, 650, what? Actually, does a good job. The part is really quite small, and of course it really depends a lot on the subwoofer, because you obviously can't connect a 1 or 2 ohm subwoofer to this. That means you can only do it with a 4 ohm subwoofer or with 2 2 ohm subwoofers, or theoretically with 4 1 ohm subwoofers if you connect them all in series. 4 subs lack power. The subwoofer just doesn't have enough power again. Subwoofers would of course work too, or a subwoofer with a dual voice coil, 2 2 ohms, example 4 ohm subwoofer, testing amplifier with subwoofer, 4 ohm subwoofer lying around, and that's why I'm going to try this little amplifier with a small 10 or 12 inch 4 ohm subwoofer. 4 ohm subwoofer, just try it out, connect it, and then see what happens. If you actually have a 1 or 2 OCHEM subwoofer, it's better to use what's called monoblock amplifiers, which are single channel amplifiers specifically designed for such low impedances. But not this one. This is a 2-channel amplifier. Now there are from this series, so from this ETON Mini series, it's been a few years, but it's definitely not old by any means. From the series, 2 sisters. Actually 2 sister models. What else is there? In addition to this 300.2 ETON Mini 300.2, there is also a 150.4 April 150th. Imagine it like this. So in the end, the 2 channels that are now in the 2-channel setup were simply split. That means you have 4 channels and the power was then divided accordingly. That means this 150.4, it has 4 times 100 watts at 4 ohms. 4 times 155 watts at 2 ohms. 2 times 3 and 10 watts at 4 ohms bridged. That means if you have a double voice coil, you can also use the 4th ohm version, use the 4-channel version. I have the 300.2 here, which is rated for 4 ohms, and I think that will work well. Cable sizes that fit in here. That means, of course, cables fit into our beautiful terminals here. I tried it out with stranded wire, so here in the power terminals, 20 or 25mm square cables fit in without any problems. And also into the speaker terminals, if I have bridged something now, then only 2, otherwise 4, fit in without any problems. Also 4mm square cables fit in speaker cables. If you have the 4-channel version of this amplifier, then there's also 1. It's basically an upgrade. I personally have the ETON Stealth 7.1 in my smart DSP amplifier. That means it has 7 output channels and has a DSP built in. The same DSP that's in my ETON Stealth is actually also available in an ETON Mini, and there is also this ETON Mini in the ETON Mini 100.4 DSP version. Means it's like this. The amplifier here is a 4-channel version with an integrated DSP. The DSP has a total of 8 channels, which means 4 are already amplified here. In this small housing, there are 4 outputs separately. That means you can then add another 2X, a 300.2, attach something or something else, something bigger. Doesn't matter. That means, of course, you're also limited by the settings. Just like with my Stealth, just stop. A bit more compact, and instead of having 7 channels, it only has 4 channels. Channels, but only 4 channels. But that also makes you more flexible. You have to put in a bit of power, but it's actually pretty cool. If we go back to the non-DSP versions, that means really to the 300.2 and the 154, then it's like this, well, in the manual there's just a little treat. I know none of you read user manuals. I actually don't either. But every now and then I do want to check out these funny videos. Okay, how does this work? How does this work? And I found something super interesting. I'll read it. It says that the amplifier should be used, for example, for a fully active setup for mid-high tone systems. Can be used for further optimizing the signal-to-noise ratio and the maximum clarity of the audio signal. These can be fed directly into the amplifier. For this, 2 jumpers located in the amplifier are set from position 2, which is the factory setting, to position 1. The function of the level remote control is no longer available. Please note, to do this, the power amplifier must be completely disconnected from the power supply and the ground must be removed from the power amplifier. So, what do we want to say? I just showed you the connection for the level remote control. And at that point, of course, the signal then goes through the level remote control, or rather, through the switch and so on, and that can be improved by actually moving the jumper from positions, sets it to position 1. What that means and how to do it. I'll give it a try. That means I'm going to take this amplifier apart. There are a total of 6 screws for that need to be removed. Once here, 4, and then again here, 2. I'll open it up and then we'll take a look inside the amplifier. For those who want to know exactly, you need a 1.5mm Allen key to loosen these screws. So what should I say? The amplifier looks good from the inside. I'll try to keep this short. Into the camera. That means we have a nice board. We even have a 30 amp fuse here twice. So overall this nice amplifier is protected with a total of 60 amps. But whatever I do, I can't find a jumper. Somehow. I'm either too blind, or it doesn't have my version here. I actually can't tell you. I'll contact my contact person at ETON, and once I've figured out the number there, then of course I'll follow up on that. What is there to say about these beautiful amplifiers? They are quite small. In terms of performance, it's very good. At least for the size. And yes, they actually do a really great job. And they're super flexible, so depending on how you want to combine it. With DSP, I would never recommend doing anything without DSP. That's why with a DSP, either a combination of, for a subwoofer, for the front system, active, passive, anyway, you can definitely do anything. You can have a lot of fun playing around with it. A tip from my side, a nice little amplifier for little money. You give it a try. In that sense, if you have any questions, just drop it down in the comments. Can I answer your questions? Otherwise, if I find anything else, where that jumper is, I will of course let you know. I'm glad you watched, and until next time, Thomas. And I'm putting the amplifier back together now. Done. Bye.